All right, it is Tuesday afternoon already. Welcome to our Tuesday afternoon office half hour, where we will talk about all things time management and how you can be like a time management rebel and push things to the next level with your charting, with your time management, your career, your life, everything, right? It all starts here. So easy. So, I am Jessica. I am the world's most productive nurse practitioner, right? It's there, it's in writing. Can't argue that. I want to read to you actually a little bit from the book this week, and then I'll tackle questions. If you have anything that you'd like to add, you can definitely add it to the chat, and we'll try to work that in if we can. But first, I want to just I want to stop and take a little breath because we don't do that enough, right? Like we really don't. I find myself holding my breath a lot, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I need to breathe, right? What is that? Like a clenching. We do too much of that. I think we do too much of that just in our society and in our profession, in healthcare. And so it's good sometimes to remind yourself to just breathe, right? Let it out. So now that that's out of the way, right? I'm going to read to you. This is my book. I think I'm going to do like a relaunch of it soon. It came out 2 years ago. Secrets from the World's Most Productive Nurse Practitioner. There we go. And I talk in it about, if you haven't read it, if you've already read it, you can fast forward this part. But if you haven't read it yet, you know that I talk in it about basically all of my philosophy when it comes to time management and charting and getting through the workday in a clinical setting. One day I was sitting down and I had a couple of minutes to spare. I think I was like waiting for a patient to give a urine sample, probably, or something like that. And I was poking around in Epic, and there are reports that you can run, like performance reports or something. I forget what they're called. But I looked in it and ran it for myself. And for the previous 4 quarters, which is as far back as the report went, I had closed 97 to 100% of my charts the same day. This is actually a copy of me. Here's me up at the top, right? And here are all of my colleagues who actually were doing pretty well. They were in the like 70 to 80%. But here's me way up at the top, right? And I realized, oh, maybe there is something that I have that I'm doing a little different because I was also getting done at 5 p.m. every day because I was working on my master's in public health, so I had to get home to do homework and go to class and all that sort of stuff. So I didn't have much of a choice. And I thought maybe there's something that I do that is different than what other people do, or some sort of insight that I have that I could share that could benefit other people. So I sat down and I thought maybe I'll write like an article or something. And I started writing. And before I knew it, I had like this much. So it turned into a book. It's been out for just over 2 years now, and it has been very popular, very successful, very helpful. That's the most important thing to me. It's great to sell copies of stuff, but really the goal was to help people because this is such a pervasive issue in our industry. If you are watching this, you are probably one of the people that wants your situation to be better. You may know people who have a lot worse than you too, but everybody has some version of it. And I will tell you, I did get my stuff done. I worked on at work regularly, like, almost 100% of the time. But I was exhausted. I was actually recently talking with my husband about this, and I would come home and go to bed at like 8 o'clock at night. So it's still, it wasn't like I was just like riding off into the sunset and living my best life. Still very taxing, but at least I'm not charting. Right? That was my thinking. Um, and then I've also been thinking I should have hats made, like a baseball cap that says like, at least I'm not charting. Anyhow, so all the work that we do comes at an expense, comes at our expense. It comes at the expense of maybe our well-being, our relationships, our personal lives, our interests outside of work. Um, Student loans have been on pause for like 3 years, and that's about to change. And a lot of people are looking at getting like side hustles started or something to kind of tackle those student loan payments, which, is great. But my question is, how? How are you going to do that? How are you going to have the time and the bandwidth to be able to do that? If that's your goal, then I want that for you, right? But I also don't want that to come at the expense of your well-being. So I really think of time management as a luxury, but also the ultimate form of rebellion. When we get our time in our control, then if we're not wasting or spending all of our time at work or doing work, even if we bring it home, and we have that time back to ourselves as we should, we're entitled to it, right? We're not cutting corners. We're doing what we agreed to. If we have that time back for ourselves, and if we have that energy that we would have spent charting until 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and I know a lot of you are in that boat, we have that back. What would that look like, right? Would we be able to have the energy to start a side hustle, whether that is to pay student loans or just to look at other interests that we have professionally, like writing or something, right? Would we be able to engage in a hobby? Would we be able to spend time with family and friends? Would we be able to not miss those moments with our children, our families, or just even ourselves, right? That we're sacrificing right now because the only person who's going to know that you stayed late at work are your friends and your family. So taking that time back is sort of my mission, right? Is to help you to either set boundaries, gain the skills, get the practice, look at the tips, the tricks, the techniques so that you can do this and you can do this consistently and you can keep your time in your control where it should be. That's my mission. So the book is part of that. There are other pieces that are part of that as well, but I really feel like it's a rebellion because I think there's a lot of improvement to be had in healthcare. And I think that we waited for it to come from the top down. We gave that a try. Hasn't happened yet. So we need to do it from the ground up, from the grassroots. We need to be the ones to make those improvements, to make those changes. And it starts with us. And it starts with us having boundaries and saying what we will do, not necessarily what we won't do, but where we will do, what we will do and where that line is. Finding it for us and enforcing it. No one teaches us how to do that. So I'll teach you how to do it. Okay. If you want to know how to do it, hit me up, jessicareeves.net. But right now, I'm going to read to you a little bit from the book. This is a little piece that I think is an important thing that people need to hear. People need to say it, right? And people need to hear it as well. So this is from chapter 5, which is all about charting. If you can't be done for the day, if 80% or more of your charts closed by 5 p.m. or within 30 minutes of the end of your last appointment on most work days, your clinic needs to know this. And you need to define and maintain your boundaries or renew efforts to do this. If you followed my advice so far in the book, you know that you have an understanding of why you're not able to reach this milestone, between having tracked your time, completed PDSA cycles, and some reflective journaling. Review that material and the insight when speaking with leadership about your needs. When you have actual data, objective data, as opposed to anecdotal evidence that you can bring to support your request, that should be helpful to all parties concerned. There's a chance you're not the only person who's experiencing these symptoms. Maybe the expectations need to be adjusted on the part of the clinic, the patients, or even you. Depending where in your career you are, maybe the expectations placed on you by the clinic are too stringent. Would having a slot held in the morning and the afternoon for a few weeks be enough to help you adjust and get up to speed? If you're having this conversation with your leadership, bring ideas for solutions as well as the data that you've collected regarding your own performance. This is going to position you as someone who's treating the issue seriously, not someone who's chronically late because they're posting their outfit of the day on social media or something. And it'll show also that you have high standards for yourself. So my experience, both as an employee and as a leader, is that people who come in with a clearly identified problem and a potential solution, or more than one potential solution, are the ones who are the most motivated to do a good job or a great job. And as a leader, I've always been willing to do what I could to meet them halfway. So that is a little tidbit from Secrets from the World's Most Productive Nurse Practitioner. And I think it's good advice. It's really important to know where things stand, to have that objective data and to be able to bring that and say, I need your help, leadership, right? I need your help because this is an issue that I'm struggling with. Here is the evidence, and what can we do? In an ideal world, staff, whether they're providers or MAs or secretaries or whatever they are, staff and leadership will work in partnership to solve the problem. I realize that doesn't always happen. It might even be the rarity, right, rather than the frequency. But that should be the goal, right? We work with our patients. Why shouldn't we be able to work with leadership? And if your leadership won't work with you to try to meet this need and get you where you need to be, because you're the one who's bringing the money in, right? It's billing for your business that brings in the money. Then you really need to wonder why. You can ask them why. They might not have an answer. That's the other reality. They may have an answer that they're not willing to share, but they may not have an answer at all. They may not have really thought of this. You might be the first rebel to come in and speak up for yourself. Good for you. We need more of you. It may be the first time that they are hearing this question, right? Why is it? Why is it that we can't meet halfway on this? And if they need some time to think about it and get back to you, that's fine, right? Not too much time, but a week, 2 weeks maybe. Well, how long can you drown, right? But hold them accountable, okay? Because it's not just about them being responsible for your performance. It's about you being responsible for your performance and the influence that they have on it, good or bad. And if you need something, it is up to you to say something. It would be great if they noticed, magically did what you needed, but we can't count on them to be mind readers, right? So talk to your leadership regularly about where things stand. If you have ideas for how things could be better, or if you have specific, like acute issues that you need help addressing, and involve them, right? Ask them to be part of the solution. Bring a proposal to the conversation. Hear out whatever their side of it is. And if you don't like what you hear, say something about it. And in the extreme, if you don't like what you hear, walk away, leave, quit your job, right? You can do that. You are allowed to do that. It's not easy to do it. And depending where you live, you may work in an area that is saturated, right? So it might be a little hard, but you might need to reinvent things. But you're allowed to do that. Did you know that? Has anybody ever suggested that you make your own system, right? Go do Botox on the weekends or something, right? Like, what, you don't have to put up with the way things are, okay? There are a lot of ways that you can push back in a lot of different ways that can make it better for you, and that can make it better. Like, you can be the trailblazer. It can make it better for your colleagues or for the people that come after you. Nurse practitioners are all nurses. And we, as nurses, have a lot of training, skill, experience at putting other people ahead of us, usually patients, in a 9-to-5 setting, usually patients, and advocating for our patients, which is great. That's one of the strengths of nurses, their advocacy. But a weakness, I think, for nurse practitioners is advocating for ourselves. It's just not something that we have spent a lot of time doing. So let's change that, right? Let's be the change we want to see. Let's inspire the next generation of nurses, nurse practitioners, anybody really on the team. We need to speak up for our needs instead of waiting around for somebody else to do it. It's not going to happen. It would have happened, right? And it's up to us. So let's do something about that. If you need help with that, if you need support with that, if you need skills building with that, if you need practice sessions with that, I am available. You can find me on Jessica Reeves, REVES.net. Okay, so I'm going to move on to questions now. And I love this one. I say that every time, because you know why? Because I love talking about this stuff, right? I love, like, it, and I also want somebody, like, try to send me a stumper. Try to send me a question that you don't think I'm going to be able to answer. I love that, right? But I love all questions because I really am a fan of talking about this stuff. And I think more of us need to do it. So I'm glad that you're here listening about this stuff. So the question that I got sent in, do you know of any resources for SMARTPHRASES to increase my charting speed? Okay. So if you are not familiar, SMARTPHRASES, I believe, are exclusive to Epic. The concept isn't, but that's like, it's like a trade name or whatever. So SMARTPHRASES are little snippets of text that you can punch into your note in Epic that will then generate like a string of text, and you can make them yourself, or you can, import them or borrow like colleagues and stuff. And so instead of saying patient presents with concern for blank, you say concern or something into your dictation microphone, and it populates that, right? So people have them for like a whole bunch of things, right? And I know that I had a colleague that used to have one that was like basketball or something, like something had nothing to do with soccer. And it would like pop up this text that she put in like pretty much every single note, and then she would customize it a little. So you can do it, there's a million different ways that you can do it. So this person is asking if I know of any resources for smart phrases. Well, yeah, you can Google it, right? There are some resources that are available. I think you can get like paid versions on Amazon, I think I've seen. And in my Chart Magic course, I do have a smart phrase starter pack to kind of get you started, as well as, you can use it as inspiration for customizing. Those are all great, but guess what? Smart phrases are only going to address one small part of the problem. If you want to get faster at charting, right? First of all, my first question is, I would set aside the issue of smart phrases and I would look back at the much, much bigger picture. And I would say, first of all, why do you want to get faster at charting? Are the expectations unrealistic? And are those unrealistic expectations placed on you by leadership and administration? Or are they unrealistic, like that you've placed on yourself? Or a combination of the two, right? So that would be my first question. Like, why do you want to get faster at charting? And then specifically, I would say smart phrases are only going to get you so much faster, right? And the thing with smart phrases, I don't use smart phrases. I don't think that they really save me a lot of time. I've seen them work great for other people. So I'm not like against smart phrases, but I don't use them. The reason I don't use them is you have to remember all these little phrases, like the basketball thing that my colleague used, right? And she had, probably a couple dozen smart phrases that she used. And she had to remember all of the like, this basketball will populate this text, right? That's a waste of time. Waste of time. I don't want to spend my charting time that way. For her, she was satisfied with it. And if you have something that works for you and that you're satisfied with, and that isn't like taking too long, then stick with it, right? Like we do not reinvent the wheel. But if you are getting started with smart phrases, I really want you to think about what your end game is with this, right? If you want to get faster, maybe you're saying too much. Could that be the case, right? Do you really need to have a more simplified template for your notes where you're actually saying less, you're using a little less language, and so you don't really need smart phrases, right? And the amount of effort that you would spend on learning these smart phrases and incorporating them and also getting them like built in Epic, which takes time, maybe that time could be better spent on something else. So I would also think that, smart phrases seem like a solution, but I just see the cost, the opportunity cost, right? And instead, simplification is really the name of the game, I think, because I think we get really nervous when we're charting that we're going to miss something or we're going to forget to say something or there's going to be, we didn't go into enough detail. Like I see that a lot with my clients. And I think that we need to step away from that a little bit. That's rarely an issue, right? And if you say less and if you have an economy of words, you're not going to need smart phrases. So again, right? Me, 97 to 100% of my charts close same day and out the door at like 5 o'clock. And I didn't use smart phrases, right? What did I do? I had 4 templates. I had 4 templates. And so this was in a busy primary care practice where I was seeing like 20 patients a day and they're coming in and they have like, 8 million things that are on their radar for that visit. So I had to set limits with the patients. And when it came time to write the notes, I had 4 templates. I had an acute visit, I had an annual physical, I had a follow-up visit, and then I had a pre-op physical. And that was like 90 to 95% of my notes was one of those 4 templates. That's it, right? The curveballs would be things like workers' compensation. Well, that's like a whole separate beast, right? So that doesn't count. new patient visit, that's basically an annual physical in terms of documentation, right? So you can start with your annual physical template and you can just kind of, customize a little bit. It's a lot faster to customize things than it is to start from scratch. And because of this, because I had these templates where I'm kind of just going in and filling in the blanks and all of that verbal connective tissue was already in there, like patient presents for was already in there. I didn't have to write that every time or say it every time if I was dictating. That's where I saved time. I didn't have, some people like to have like 8 million templates. Nope. Again, learning how to use each of those templates is going to take you a bunch of time, right? So that's going to be a learning curve. And is that an investment of time that you want to make? Maybe not, right? For me, it wasn't. Smart phrases didn't work for me. Templates, I kept very, very minimal. You can always add to a template, right? Like you can always put more stuff on if you need to. Sometimes you will, right? Like there's going to be those visits. Most of the time you don't need to. So I would really, really question what you're, think back a few steps before smart phrases and what do you think that you will gain from that? And are there other ways that you can gain, for example, more time? Are there other ways that you can gain more time? If somebody wants to use smart phrases, I would say, are you dictating? That would be another question, right? Because dictating is going to be a game changer. It's going to get you so much faster than any smart phrase, right? Because you have to learn to dictate. It's a little bit of a curveball, and the thought process is a little bit different. It doesn't take that long. And once you do, you can see from me, right? Obviously, I can speak a lot faster than I can type. So if I was typing this, I'd still be going. But dictating is going to get you a lot further, a lot faster than smart phrases. So are there resources? Yeah, I even have a few. Like I said, in my Chart Magic course, it comes with some smart phrases, and there are things that you can get, online. Those are all options. But really, really think critically about what you're hoping to gain from using smart phrases. And if there's maybe a better way that might even give you more bang for your buck, right? That you could kind of come into it. So I would instead go with templates. Of course, I have a template thing. I have a template mini course. You can get that too. Link below if that's your thing. But think about templates, right? Think about dictation. Think about the language that you're using, no matter what kind of notes you're using. Think about limits and boundaries that you're placing with patients, right? Like how much you really can cover in a visit, and then how much that there is to document, right? Those are all things where you can pump the brakes a little bit and set yourself up so that you don't even need smart phrases, right? But if you want them, they are out there. People use them. Some people really love them. I don't use them, don't love them, but yes. So that's another big thing, right? When it comes to time management and charting, is I want to say that we need to challenge our assumptions, but it's deeper than that, right? Because where do these assumptions come from? Because we're not taught any of this stuff. Right? We are just kind of thrown in the deep end when it comes to charting in a lot of ways. We do soap notes in school. That's kind of it. But we're thrown in the deep end when it comes to charting. And we may see examples from colleagues of what to do, what not to do, tips and tricks, and kind of, little workarounds that can improve, hopefully improve things. But we're really not told what to do. We don't learn that anywhere. So when there are assumptions, where do those come from, right? Maybe not, I don't want to say like not reality, that doesn't sound good, but like, where are those actually coming from? It might be something that is not really rooted in the reality of our experience. So think about that, right? Think about why you think what you think when it comes to charting. And see if you can kind of turn that around. Can you think about that differently? Can you think about it from a different perspective? Can you think about it in ways that are about simplification? The simpler you keep everything, the better it is. So with that in mind, we are done for this week. I thank you for coming in. Like I said, I do have Chart Magic, and I am in the midst of putting together Chart Magic Boot Camp. So it's the same content delivered fast and furious in a little 5-day window, and it will get you from overwhelmed to empowered. So watch for that as well. And also have my mini course, which is called Not Another Note. If you've ever thought, not another note, then this is the mini course for you. And it's cheap. It's $27, and you get 4 templates, 4 completed versions for comparison, right? So sort of like guardrails of like how to not go too far with your notes. You get some inbox coaching. You get a lecture from me, from my board of nursing investigator with that hat on, talk about what you should put in your notes, and some other stuff too. So check that out, links and all that stuff below. And until next time, if you have questions, definitely send those in. I just love to talk about this stuff, right? And I love to solve problems. So I love to help you solve your charting and time management problems. Okay. Until next time, bye.